On August 21, 1986, 1,746 people died in their sleep in northwestern Cameroon. There were no wounds, no signs of struggle, and no damaged buildings. Local wildlife, including 3,500 livestock, collapsed in the exact spots they were standing. The killer was the lake they lived next to. Lake Nyos sits in a volcanic crater. It was known as a quiet, completely still body of water. Farmers lived along its banks for generations without incident. But deep underwater, a geological trap was filling up. A magma chamber lies 80 kilometers beneath the lake bed. It constantly leaks carbon dioxide upward through the rock. In most volcanic lakes, the water turns over regularly, releasing small amounts of gas. Lake Nyos is different. It is extraordinarily deep and completely unbothered by wind. The water formed distinct, separate layers that never mixed. The heavy, cold water at the bottom became a high-pressure storage tank. Over centuries, it absorbed dissolved carbon dioxide. 5 gallons of gas were compressed into every single gallon of water. The lake was a pressurized time bomb. It only needed a trigger. To this day, nobody knows exactly what that trigger was. Some geologists suspect a small landslide along the crater wall. Others point to heavy rainfall that chilled the surface water. Whatever it was, it disrupted the delicate layers. A block of the gas-heavy deep water was pushed upward. As it rose, the water pressure holding it together dropped. The dissolved carbon dioxide suddenly bubbled out of solution. It was the exact mechanism of shaking a soda bottle and opening the cap. But this bottle weighed millions of tons. A massive column of water erupted violently into the air. It shot 300 feet into the sky. A microtsunami scoured the shoreline. But the water was not the primary threat. As the gas escaped the lake, it formed a massive white cloud. Carbon dioxide is heavier than the oxygen we breathe. The cloud did not disperse into the atmosphere. It hugged the ground and began to slide down the valley. It moved at 50 kilometers per hour. The cloud was 50 meters thick. It poured through the villages of Nyos, Cam, and Subam. It pushed the breathable air upward, replacing it completely. Kerosene lamps instantly flickered out. Dogs collapsed mid-bark. Families asleep in their beds never woke up. Those who were awake lost consciousness within seconds. It was an invisible, odorless flood. The cloud traveled over 20 kilometers before finally thinning out. By dawn, the valleys were entirely silent. The lake itself had changed from crystal blue to a rust-colored red. Iron from the bottom had been dragged to the surface and oxidized. It looked like the lake was bleeding. When volcanologist Haraldur Sigurdsson arrived days later, he was baffled. At first, investigators suspected a biological weapon or a viral outbreak. But blood tests on the few survivors showed extreme carbon dioxide poisoning. The scientists realized the lake was reloading. The gas was still seeping into the deep water. It would eventually erupt again. In 2001, an international engineering team installed a degassing pipe. They sank a heavy tube straight down to the lake bed. Pumping the bottom water upward started a self-sustaining fountain. The pressure of the expanding gas shoots a continuous jet of water 50 meters into the air. It runs 24 hours a day, constantly venting the carbon dioxide safely. Lake Nyos is now artificially kept from exploding. But it is not the only exploding lake on Earth. Lake Kivu, on the border of Rwanda, holds hundreds of times more gas than Nyos. 2 million people live on its shores. The mechanism at Lake Kivu is identical. The deep water is quietly absorbing millions of tons of carbon dioxide and methane. A single earthquake could trigger a Limnic eruption on a catastrophic scale. Scientists monitor the water daily. They know exactly what is waiting at the bottom. They are just trying to empty the tank before the earth shakes. It is a race against a silent physics problem. And physics does not care who is sleeping in the valley.